Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello. Welcome to the first episode of the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I am so excited that you are tuning in. I'm sending you so much gratitude, so much love. It honestly means so much to me that you're here and you're listening, and I would love for you to send me a message to let me know because I can actually see who's listening to this, so I would just love to thank you so much. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the major blocks, even though I hate using the word blocks, but some of the major blocks that have, I don't want to say hindered my spiritual journey, but just some of the roadblocks I've run into along the way that have kind of made it feel like, oh, maybe I can't go any further with this, or I can't dive deeper into this, and just a little bit about what that journey's looked like for me and how I move through those things. And yeah, I don't have any notes for this episode. I barely ever do notes for this kind of thing, so we're just gonna roll with the punches and see where this takes us. So for those of you that don't know me, my intro kind of gave a quick blurb, but I'm Kaya. I am a wife, a mom. If you're into astrology, I am Aquarius Sun, Pisces Moon, Leo Rising. If you're into human design, I am a 6/2 sacral manifesting generator. So that is me. Hopefully that sums it up for those who speak that language. If not, then I am, a wife and mom. I'm from Canada. I've lived here my whole life, but I'm thinking about moving somewhere soon. Keep your eyes out, to be announced. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started a few different businesses, most recently this one with spiritual coaching, spiritual mentorship, helping other people along their spiritual journey, because I feel like that's so crucial. It was so crucial for me with my journey to really have people who felt expansive for me to look up to and to ask questions and feel like I just had a safe space to explore and receive information. So that's a little bit about me. I'll probably share more in other episodes kind of as it unfolds. I literally hate doing introductions. Like I hate being like, here, let me tell you like 8 different points about myself. So we'll just skip past that. If you are on my Instagram, you'll see my life unfolding. If you're not, I'll link it below in the show notes, and you should definitely be on there. So my spiritual journey has not been the same as some other spiritual coaches that I know and I'm associated with, who kind of grew up in a family setting that really allowed for that growth and that inquiry. So for me, when I grew up, like as a young child, right from the beginning, my family was very religious in, different aspects of Christianity mainly. And that was my first major block when it came to spirituality. I remember as a child being like so into all things woo, like just very curious. I was very curious about, like, I always loved like different crystals and gemstones, and like I loved just anything woo. Like I loved to watch like Long Island Medium, if you are familiar with that show from like, I think it was TLC. Just things like that. I was so curious about like, the dimensions beyond the 3D, and like communicating with dead people, essentially communicating with other beings like aliens. Like it's all just been so interesting to me. But growing up, it was kind of directly and indirectly displayed to me that these things were not okay, that they were, of the devil, they were bad, they were witchcraft, they're dark magic, like, and all those things were bad. Like, and growing up, like, I remember even when I was into the show Long Island Medium, like I'd have to like watch it in private. Like I couldn't tell my parents I was watching that show. And when they found out, it was like, this isn't real, this is just like this woman scamming people, like, all this stuff, right? And it's not good, you shouldn't be watching this. So growing up, like right from the get-go, all of this was super repressed for me. Like it was just like, it's not okay to explore these things, it's not okay to be interested in any of this. So that was the first major block for me was definitely like family and religion and how those two things tied together. And I actually grew up into my 20s considering myself to be a Christian and like very into that too. And part of that really is like, now in hindsight, this is like such a complicated topic, but in hindsight now I see there's so much in Christianity and the values that I held back then that I actually still hold now. Like I still do believe in a lot of different aspects of it, but I don't really resonate any longer with calling myself a Christian or like the institution of the church. So I understand back then that like what kept me really interested in Christianity was the idea of like a higher being, of being part of the one, like being part of the wholeness and being able to like lean on a higher power for support and answers and like a shoulder to cry on. Like I loved all of that, but what never resonated for me was like following all the rules that were in the Bible and like to a T, and the judgment that's in the Christian church. Like there's just so much to that. I won't get into that whole conversation, but essentially that was like the first major block for me around that. And how that really unfolded for me was honestly just a huge gray area. And it was like probably the biggest thing that I've had to overcome in my spiritual journey was like untangling Christianity and like the beliefs from what I now believe and seeing like where those things line up, like, because at the beginning, like when I started to realize like I don't resonate with Christianity anymore, a part of me just wanted to be like, all of it's wrong, throw it in the trash, like I can't believe I believed any of it, they're just completely wrong. And I really had to take a step back and think, wait, there's actually a few things here that like I do still believe in. Like there's a few threads that I do believe in. I just don't believe in the structures and the rules and everything of it anymore. And for me, that was huge, to really start untangling it and to really have the courage to untangle it. And honestly, like, if I'm being completely open, I haven't even really come out to my family about any of this, like about my whole spiritual journey. Like they know that I'm a little like conspiracy theorist and I have different views of the world and things like that, but I've never actually explicitly told my family like I no longer consider myself a Christian anymore. And it was like the biggest deal when I actually opened up to my husband about that, because if you don't know, which you probably don't, my husband and I met on christianmingle.com. Like we were like hardcore Christians, both of us, and we've both come a long way in different aspects on our spiritual journeys. And I've been exploring it a little deeper than he has, and for me to tell him that was like really big, and just have so much love for him and like holding me in this transition, even though it's something that is really hard for him too, and it's his own journey that he's on, and unfolding it all for himself right now. But it's still something that it's no longer a block for me personally and my soul, but it is a block for me to like come out to my family and share that, and to be open with like my dad and my brother and everything, and say like, yeah, I actually don't believe in that anymore, and I talk to aliens now. Okay, bye. You know what I mean? So that's been like a huge piece of my journey, is just untangling the religion and the Christianity from it all, and healing, and just sending so much love to that version of myself and everyone who influenced me in that, and my family who influenced me in it, and just not having any bitterness towards anyone or anything, or even like the institution in general, and just realizing like I can have my own truth and other people can too, and it all gets to be fine and perfect. So the next piece for me, that one I feel like I'll have to make another whole episode on, but I won't speak to it too much right now. But the other piece that has been one of the roadblocks I've run into on my own spiritual journey has been feeling like I wasn't special enough. Like I wasn't, I don't know how to word it, but it's that feeling of like, yeah, like I'm kind of interested in this stuff, but like I'm probably not like special, or I'm probably not powerful enough to be a psychic channel or to do energy healing, even though like there's a piece of me, once I allowed myself to open up to this world, there's like instantly I was like, I want to be an energy healer. Like I want to help other people heal. I want to deliver this medicine. And then the ego came right in, like right after, and was like, you can't do that. Like, you haven't been practicing spirituality your whole life. Like, you can't be a healer. Healers practice for decades. Like, that can't be you. You don't have the powers for it. You're not special enough. You're just here to be ordinary. Like, all those thoughts kind of come in. And that's been a huge piece for me too, is just like really exploring like my own gifts and accepting them and saying like, you know what, actually I am a really powerful channel, and like allowing myself to get out of my comfort zone and channel for other people, not just myself. Because sometimes when we use our gifts on ourselves, we think, well, you know, of course it worked out, whatever, it was just me. And allowing myself to get out of my comfort zone and practice channeling intuitive messages for other people and healing with other people has really showed me that like, yeah, like, wow, I really do have a gift for this, because the feedback that I get back from people is just like, how did you know that? It was so bang on. Like, I can't believe that like the spirit guide showed you this, because like, you know, I have a tattoo of this, or like, you know, stuff that I would never know about these people. Like, I've never met them before, some of them. And like, it just has been such a liberating experience for me to allow myself to tap into those gifts and tap into the power and tap into just, just allowing myself to accept them, if that's the right word, I guess, but just to accept those gifts and to say like, yeah, I do have gifts. I'm here to share them. I am powerful enough. I am special, like, and no longer suppressing that within me. And the last big piece, I feel like this is like one of those like 1, 2, 3 type podcasts, but the last big piece that I really wanted to share with you is that one of the biggest pieces for me, and now one of the biggest pieces of my brand and my business as a spiritual mentor, is like letting go of all the rules. Like, one of the biggest blocks for me, and kind of ties into feeling like, you know, I'm not special enough, like, you know, whatever, was like making up all these rules in my head of like how spirituality has to look. And a lot of them come from like comparison to like seeing other spiritual women or spiritual mentors and like whatever in the online space, and like, you know, having like perfectly curated meditation rooms and these cute little meditation pillows and like, you know, all kinds of giant crystals and like just like all these things. And besides the material things, just also beyond, but just seeing all of this, and like there was a long time where I thought to myself like, yeah, like I can't be like a spiritual mentor. I can't share my gifts with other people because like, you know, I'm just like recording this podcast in my bedroom that has like clothes literally all over the floor, and I'm sitting on my bed. So it's like, you know, who am I to be this mentor for other women when like my life's low-key a hot mess? And coming from this place of like comparing myself to other women of like, you know, they have all these tools that I don't have, or they've been practicing for longer than I have, or like whatever it is, right? And making up all these rules about not just being a spiritual mentor, but just spirituality in general, about like, you know, I'm not spiritually connected unless like I have like a 2-hour morning routine to like ground into the earth and like put my feet on the ground and like drink a ceremonial cacao and like just be one with the trees and like, you know, all this stuff. Like, I see other women in the online space doing that, and that's so beautiful. And like, yeah, of course there is a piece of me that wishes that I had that lifestyle, and right now it's just not possible for where I live and, you know, the work that I do and everything. But I really had to let go of the idea that the only way to like have a spiritual relationship and to be a spiritual woman was through having all of these things, through like, you know, sitting on the floor with my sound bowls and like having a sound bath for half an hour and like all these things. Like, I had to let that go and decide that like I'm enough as I am. Like, yeah, I love having some crystals, and so I have a couple oracle card decks and like some sage and stuff, like, but that's all I have. Like, I don't have all kinds of other bells and whistles. I don't have a meditation pillow. I don't have a meditation room. Like, I don't use guided meditations barely ever. Like, I just don't have time for them, like, to be honest. Like, and when I do, like, I sometimes just don't feel like doing them. And I really had to decide that like what I have to give and what I actually physically have too is enough. If I don't have time to meditate today, that's okay. I'm still spiritually connected. And like, I had to learn to make things work for me too. So instead of deciding that like the only way I can do an embodiment ritual is, you know, when I'm all by myself and I have like tons of room and my house is clean, I've got like all kinds of room on the floor, I had to decide that like, no, like I can do an embodiment ritual like while my son's awake. Like maybe he can join me. Like, why can't that be a thing? Like, why does it always have to be I'm all by myself in a quiet room? You know, like I feel like sometimes, like at least for me, like I always thought like spirituality had to be this thing where like you're alone in a quiet room so you can connect. You know what I mean? And now I'm just like, no, like sometimes honestly, like I pop on some Coco Melon on the iPad for my son, give him a snack so he can sit, and I'll be like hopefully uninterrupted, but I'm in the same room watching him. Don't worry, disclaimer. And I'll sit on the couch with my cacao in the morning because I love to have that instead of coffee now. And I'll just sit there and like, you know, close my eyes or, you know, peek them open every couple minutes to make sure my son's still standing there, but usually he is. So, and I'll just sit there and like, you know, take some deep breaths, drink my cacao for like 5-10 minutes. And that might be the only time I get to myself that day. And if it's not, great. But if it is, that's okay too. So it really has been for me just like letting go of all these rules that I've made for myself, and like waking up every morning and just thinking like, or even like every moment, like just every moment to moment kind of thing, like what can I do right now that would help me feel in a more grounded space or would help me feel more connected? And like really learning that like I don't have to be in like a 20-minute meditation to connect with my spirit guides. Like, why can't I be cooking dinner in my kitchen with my son and my husband in the next room and connect? Like, why can't that be a thing? Of course it can. So I really had to like just accept that like what I have to give, the time I have, the energy I have, the resources I have, they're enough. Spirituality gets to work for me and I create what I want from it, and I don't have to work for it. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to like have this ritual that I do every day, or like every day just I get to flow with it and it gets to work for me. And that's been huge. And that's like the main pillar of my business now, is like helping other women find that too, like ditching that rule book that like you have to do XYZ, like whatever you've made up in your head about like I need to have crystals to, you know, do chakra healing, or like I need to know all this information, or like, you know, I need to know, like have a guided meditation to be able to meditate at all. Like all of these rules, just letting them go. And I really like, my mission is to help women like bring spirituality back down to earth, like back down to like this earth plane, like back into your life in a way that works for you, in a way that feels attainable, in a way that just feels flowy and free. Like it just feels like what we desire as humans is freedom. And whatever form that is for you, maybe it's financial freedom, location freedom, time freedom, whatever it is, we all desire freedom of some kind. And when we're leaning on a spiritual practice to help bring in freedom, but that spiritual practice doesn't feel like freedom, then it's like, where's the disconnect here? You know? So it's like, how can we bring more freedom into our spiritual practice so that we can bring freedom into other areas of our life? Knowing that bringing the freedom into the spiritual practice will help us to go deeper. It doesn't have to be more time. It doesn't have to be more money. It doesn't have to be more energy spent or whatever. You don't have to have more crystals. You don't have to have more oracle card decks. You don't have to have like, you know, a Kundalini yoga thing or whatever. Like you get to have what you want and what you feel is available to you right now, and know that that gets to be enough. So I hope that this episode has had some juicy nuggets in it for you. And I would love to hear if you resonate with any pieces of my journey and your own journey. I always love for DM conversations. Like it's never like a sales pitch in my DMs. It's always just fun chats, and they're always open. If you want to drop in, say hi, let me know you tuned in, let me know what resonated for you. And also if you have any requests of things you want to learn about, things you want me to riff about, I'm always open to seeing if, you know, they tickle my fancy. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will chat with you soon.